Welcome to the Global Gratitude Summit. I'm Luann Saraga-Walters.
And I'm Sharon Saraga-Walters.
And you actually might recognize our guest today because he's had 3 very popular programs for public television, including his latest, The Better Brain Solution, based on the book by the same name. Dr. Steven Masley is a physician, nutritionist, trained chef, author, and frequent guest on media talk shows and podcasts, including The Today Show and the Discovery Channel. His passion is empowering people to achieve optimal health through comprehensive assessments and lifestyle changes. He speaks with clarity and compassion, and I know this firsthand because I had the fortune to serve as his nutritionist intern at Masley Optimal Health Center in Clearwater, Florida. Dr. Masley joins us for the summit to talk about brain health, mental clarity, and gratitude's role in both. So thank you so much for being here with us today, Dr. Masley. And I should say welcome back because you've just been also along the coast of Spain doing some research for your next book, right?
I have, and I'm really delighted to be with you today.
Well, we're going to cover some things that I know you are particularly well versed in. And I want to just give a little bit of a background for you too, in addition to your introduction, because I know you've been studying cardiovascular health and you found some links between cardiovascular and brain health. With this new book, The Better Brain Solution and the PBS special, why did you feel the need to write that? Are we seeing more instances of brain disorders? And if we are, where's that coming from?
Well, we are seeing a lot more. In fact, right now, it's the #1 most expensive disease in the Western world today, memory loss. And it's going to double, at least double in just the next decade. So it's increasing at exponential rates. It's not to be overly scary, but it's happening to younger and younger people all over time. And many of my patients on a daily basis are saying, I have brain fog. I can't concentrate. I don't feel productive. So it is very common. It's getting more common. It's super scary. It's it's becoming like the #1 cause of disability in the world. And the good news, though, is that we really can prevent most of this. I think we can prevent at least 90% of memory loss and improve our brain function so we're quicker, sharper, and more alert.
90% is a big number to go. What are you thinking from that? I mean, that's actually a very encouraging statistic.
Well, you said, what's the primary cause? Well, the primary cause has to do with blood sugar control, and that most people today have abnormal blood sugar control. We're eating the wrong foods. We don't have the right amount of activity. We don't meet our nutrient needs. And because of that, it leads to our brain cells not working well, this process we call insulin resistance. And that really shuts down our brain. It's like turning a light switch off, and suddenly, when you eat the wrong food, your brain doesn't function as well. It can't use energy. It's like your brain cells are paralyzed. So when we make the right choices, it's again like flicking a switch. It really speeds up your brain, your productivity, your executive function. All those things get better. So we can really make a tremendous difference if we just make the right choices.
Sharon and I have had several friends who have parents who've gone through dementia or who have been diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And I know within your studies as well, you've seen that Alzheimer's is now being looked at as the third type 3, explain that to me. Type 3 diabetes with Alzheimer's, is it because of this blood sugar connection?
It is. So you can actually cause Alzheimer's in lab animals. Like they've done studies on rodents where they gave them a drug which impacted their blood sugar control, and they immediately developed memory loss. And we've seen, and diabetics have 300%. If the diabetics who take insulin have 400% greater rate for memory loss. So if your blood sugar's up, we know when you have elevated blood sugar and insulin resistance, you turn off your brain cells from using energy. If we did a PET scan and measured your brain function, I know you guys like to be active and eat well, and your brain should light up like a Christmas tree. But if you don't make good choices, it's like no lights at all. Your brain's not working. So, and we can change that really quickly. So in our, at least the data from our clinic where you've worked, is that we showed an average patient improves their brain processing speed, their brain function by 25%. I mean, that's pretty amazing that just an everyday person can really improve their brain processing speed and brain function and help to prevent memory loss. So that's, I feel compelled. I mean, it's the biggest health problem we face in the world today, and at least the number one cost for healthcare today. And we can make a big difference with, it doesn't need to be that hard. So that's really why I wrote this book. And that's why I'm trying to get this message out.
And I think, Brent, before Sharon jumps into the next round of questionings too, I think it's a really encouraging thing, because a lot of people look at, if their parents have had Alzheimer's or dementia, that there's a fear that there is a genetic component, which there probably is, but they have a fear that that is going to control their destiny as well. And that's not, and you're actually saying something quite different.
Yeah, I think you said it really well. There is a genetic component. It does make a difference, but you're not limited by that. You can overcome your genes. Your genes are not fixed. We can change them with the choices we make and have a different outcome. So absolutely, we have the potential to modify our gene expression with the lifestyle choices we make and prevent what could otherwise be a catastrophe and feel better. Remember, not only are you preventing memory loss, you feel better, you're mentally sharper, you're more productive, you get more work done, and who wouldn't want that?
Awesome. We've had a little bit of, in some of the summit interviews, we've had the Zoom actually freezing and then catching up real quick. So we can still hear your audio. I just wanted to let you know that. And for our viewers and listeners listening, the listeners are going to hear a little bit of a static, but then it just keeps on going. And the viewers may notice that Dr. Masley is a little out of sync with his audio, or we will be, and it rectifies in about 10 seconds. So that just happened, Dr. Masley, just to let you know.
Okay.
Sharon?
Yeah, so Dr. Masley, how does stress impact our brains and depression and negative emotions?
Well, you know, stress has a huge impact on our health. And from our brain perspective, when we're stressed out, we're not managing it. When you have elevated chronic stress, I mean, some things are stress are good, like you guys putting on this summit. I bet it's stressful, but that gives you purpose and challenge. And at the end, you go, aha, we did it. Right? That's good stress. But bad stress is chronic stress every day. It comes on, and you're not getting any positive return from it. And that raises your cortisol. And cortisol is the hormone that's like the emergency hormone to escape a predator. But when it's every day elevated, it raises blood sugar, which is, as I've said, is really bad. It worsens cardiovascular risk factors, but literally, cortisone shrinks your brain. Your memory center shrinks under chronic stress. And nobody wants a shrunken brain, obviously. Depression's similar. And I think chronic stress is a setup. People who have chronic stress deplete brain chemistry. And I think of depression as really depressed biochemical brain activity, that you don't have those neurotransmitters to keep your brain processing and functioning properly. So chronic stress frequently leads to depressed brain function. And if you have depression, if you've ever had a case of depression, you're 300% more likely to get Alzheimer's disease.
Wow.
I mean, it's basically a sign that your brain chemistry is disrupted, it's altered. You have trouble sleeping, low energy, nothing's fun, decreased drive. You know, it's not just sex drive, it's energy, it's drive to work, it's all of those drives. You know, we feel depressed, you know, so that's our brain being out of sync, out of function. And that's a huge risk factor for irreversible memory loss. So, but here's the good news. The same factors that we've known, the same lifestyle choices that improve cognitive function, help prevent and reverse depression. So they really go hand in hand. They're intimately related. And I think we can prevent and reverse both of them.
So, you know, there are a lot of people who will come in, and I know, and I just really loved the time that I was able to work with you in your clinic and see you interact with your patients and hear you listen to their stories. And a lot of patients, a lot of people have that high level of stress, that chronic stress that you're talking about. And a lot of them also talk about brain fog, and that they just don't feel that they can, even the executives and the upper level managers who are saying, I'm trying to make decisions on a day-to-day basis, and I can't just seem to make the decisions as quickly as I used to. So are you saying that that can be reversed and they can go back to that state of clarity that they felt previously?
Absolutely. I see it all the time. My average patient, out of all of them, we've seen thousands of people, increases their brain processing speed by 25%. And probably, the most likely person I can help is someone who doesn't work out, doesn't sleep well, doesn't manage their stress, doesn't eat well, doesn't meet their nutrient needs. Those are the easiest people to, if that happens to be some of your listeners, the good news is that's really easy to fix. Here's the similarity. If you're currently putting dirt in your gas tank and your car doesn't run well, if you put in good gas, it'll run a lot better. And your brain and your body is very much the same.
One of the things that I love about how you speak is that you use these types of examples that people go, well, yeah, duh. So that's a good example there. You talked about depressed brain function a few minutes ago. What would that look like?
You'd be depressed. You would not sleep well. Your energy would be low. You would feel depressed. You'll have brain fog. You won't have drive. Nothing's fun. It's not, you don't hit, that dopamine, norepinephrine, normal serotonin, normal brain chemistry is absent. And you just feel dull. Like, okay, I'm trying to get through my day. I don't really enjoy anything. I'm depressed. Mm-hmm. That's what depression is. There's no fun. You just do your job. You keep going. And it's awful. And it's really common. It's super common today.
So it's not something that is, sometimes I think people think of depression as you have to have a diagnosis from a psychiatrist or a psychologist or something, but it actually can go hand in hand with a non-brain, I don't know how to say that, a physical element. So for example, diabetes and brain health, you may see that depression as a part of that.
Very commonly.
Okay.
Yeah, and whether it's your family doctor, your internist, your psychiatrist, any of them can diagnose depression. I mean, again, it's those same symptoms of depressed brain function. And it's not just, some people think of it as I'm depressed because something bad happened. That's different. That's what we call bereavement. A spouse dies, a sibling dies, you lose a child. Those things are awful. Anybody should grieve and feel depressed because of that. But depression is a physiological state. It's not just a mental feeling.
I'm really glad that you made that clarification too, because I think that sometimes people look at attitudes of the mind as if, and gratitude falls into that in a big way. Well, I can't just be happy with something. I can't just say, well, life isn't happening and this situation didn't occur. And so I'm just supposed to be happy, happy, joy, joy. And that's really why we wanted to do the Global Gratitude Summit, was to kind of explain that a gratitude practice actually goes through that and further in that. And there is an activity similar to eating better, sleeping better, making the intention to eat better, to sleep better, those kinds of things. What do you see in your practice from your patients who take your recommendations for different lifestyle improvements if they have depression, early onset dementia, brain, any kind of brain disorders, et cetera? What have you seen from the reversals of that?
Well, here's kind of the most amazing thing I hear from my patients. Oftentimes some people come in, they're working hard, they're driven, they're stressed, they're not taking care of themselves, and they've forgotten what it feels like to feel well. It's been so long, they don't remember anymore what it's like to jump out of bed in the morning energetic and look forward to your day. And after a month of, I'll say, well, try this. How hard, you're going to eat healthy food, you're going to meet your nutrient needs, you're going to be active, and you're going to do something to manage your stress, which includes being grateful. And when you do those 4 steps, after a month, the average person says, wow, I forgot how good I could feel. Thank you for giving me my life back. And I've heard that over and over and over again. It's just amazing. So it is transformational. You can completely transform your life by making a few simple steps that aren't that hard to do.
Let me interject for viewers and listeners, the summit attendees. The Dr. Masley is what I would refer to as a holistic doctor. He's looking at the physical, he's looking at the mental, he's looking at the emotional and the spiritual in that sense, and that from a functional medicine lens and other capacities because of his experience and decades of being able to see how the one can be tied to the other. So those 4 things that you just mentioned too are very much tied together towards an overall health. And I think the thing, and I'd like your opinion on this, I think the thing that's encouraging to me is that MDs like yourself who are conventional medicine trained, but who have explored outside of that box are also seeing incredible success with patients by offering not just a traditional approach to this is what you need to do to fix this depression. And from that standpoint, being able to assuage somebody's fear of, oh my God, I'm going to get Alzheimer's, or I've got brain fog and my parents had dementia, so therefore it's in it for me. How long until I get this kind of a thing? You're able to approach it from a standpoint that really gives them a bit more tangible things to hang their hats on, more control, more involvement in their health. I've said a lot.
If I could rephrase that, not just a bit, a lot more hope. That I can assure them that they can transform their life, feel better, and feel fantastic.
Yeah, that's really
they might make changes though. I don't have you know me, you've actually seen it. I have a wand in my office, a magic wand, and I'll wave it once in a while. But the truth is, it only works if you make the changes that are customized to you. Everybody's got their own steps they have to take. And when they do that, it is transformational. And stress management is an essential part of that. And we can reverse depression. And I want to say that drugs are not that effective. They're far less effective than we thought. You know, when we look at the most recent studies, they have, unless you are active, you do active steps to manage your stress and you meet your nutrient needs, they don't really work well at all. So yes, I'm not anti-medication. We can use medications for like depression, but they're vastly more effective and oftentimes not even needed if people will take the right steps to take care of their health.
We're about to move into our next segment of questioning, but I wanted to get you to talk a little bit about inflammation of the brain. What is brain inflammation and how does a brain become inflamed?
Well, when we eat the wrong food, your joints can be inflamed. I think let me try that one first because that's an easy one. If we beat on our joints, they'll get inflamed. Our tendons can get inflamed if we beat on them. But in a sense, we also beat on our brains. Our brains, that's the highest energy burning part of our body. And it uses a lot of fuel, and that fuel makes exhaust. It's basically the equivalent of if you're driving your car outside, you don't really notice the exhaust, right? It's just blowing away and the atmosphere sucks it up. But if you were to drive your car and have it parked in the garage, you're going to get all that exhaust, right? And you're going to die if you don't get out of the garage. Our brains, if we don't have our healthy lifestyle is what clears the exhaust out. That's the breeze. You know, that's the wind that blows that exhaust away. So we make free radicals when our brain makes all this energy. And if we have an unhealthy lifestyle, we get this load of free radicals, exhaust from energy burn, that irritates our brain tissue. That's inflammation, free radical induced. We call it oxidation because there's all these things that oxidize, like metal rust. Well, our brains go rancid. So an improper lifestyle causes inflammation of our tissues, and our brain is the most sensitive, delicate part of the whole body. So it's the first sign of systemic inflammation oftentimes is brain fog, depression, because that inflammation it's the most delicate part of our brain, and that's where we feel it first.
So that leads to the next question then.
Okay, so even before that, another question that really has come to mind. I'm really curious, Dr. Masley, because you've been in practice for quite some time. How did you incorporate gratitude into your practice? I'm really curious about that.
Well, so of those 4 pillars, right? Food, meet your nutrient needs, activity and fitness, and stress management, gratitude's an essential part of managing your stress. And it's like something, I've really learned this using heart math. So in all my patients now, when they come to the office, we do measures of stress. We measure a hormone level, DHA. Your adrenal gland makes DHA to manage stress. And we do heart math testing on all our patients to say, are you able to get calm? Can you calm your mind and stop stressing it out so you don't feel like a hamster running on spinning that wheel all the time? And our ability to get calm is like meditate for 10 minutes a day would be an example, but are you good at it? A lot of people try meditate and they just get frustrated. I can measure it. They get agitated by looking at their heart rate. I can see if we're measuring their heart rate while they're trying to meditate. Some people are super good. They turn what we call green. It gives you a green, blue, and red. Green being very calm. And it really helps to think of, I'm grateful. I feel loved. I'm grateful to be alive. I'm grateful for my life. That's such a happy, pleasant, it's a calming thought. When we worry, we're fretting, like fretting over our kids, fretting over a job, our relationship. That's agitate, that's sympathetic tone. We're burning our brain out. We're like that hamster spinning that wheel. We need calm time. And to me, I think of trying to actively be grateful is an extremely calming emotion. And you can actually see when someone uses that thought process of being grateful, that their brain goes from red to blue to green, and their brain waves go from agitated to smooth and calm. And we can see that with heart rate. Your heart rate variability gets smooth and calm as you breathe when you're thinking of gratitude and you're learning to get calm. So I'm connecting those together. I'm curious what you think about that.
Oh, I think it's great. I mean, it's wonderful having a doctor that's using that in the practice. So I think it's wonderful. Really do.
Well, you've just got such a way of being able to explain things that people want to sit here and go, tell me more. So that's, that was what we were talking about when we were talking about an inflamed brain. And that's kind of what the brain is like under stress. It's that, so doing something like the heart math or doing the gratitude work you're saying is really giving it the break. Will that also, can you see the actual physical manifestation of a decrease of inflammation from these kinds of practices, from the gratitude?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's really easy when you're doing heart math because you're like, you're measuring your heart rate and you can see if it's a nice smooth reset. Think about it. When you take a breath in and I expand my chest, my heart rate should slow down. And when I breathe out, there's more blood returning to my heart and it speeds up. And your heart rate should be this nice, smooth curve if we're relaxed and meditating and in that state of gratitude of your heart rate smoothly going up and down, just like this. Whereas a lot of people, their heart rate's just flat. It's not going to change one iota when they're breathing because they're so tense. And that's a sign of kind of a wired brain. Inflammation is a biochemical process, but if your heart rate's stimulated and you have that sympathetic tone, you are kind of like that hamster spinning. I said that 3 times, but I think it's a really good example of, that spinning going on inside our head. How do we turn that off and relax? Mm-hmm. How do we learn to get calm? How do we learn just to breathe for a moment? And what's amazing to me is 10 minutes a day has very large physiological impact. It's not like we have to do this for hours at a time. 10 minutes a day of gratitude, deep breathing, meditation. And I think heart math is just a nice feedback tool to help you do it effectively. That it's remarkable the results you can get.
Have you heard from any of your patients of that? And again, I'm thinking because you work with executives who are at a very high level and they have very stressful and challenging jobs, and they have to be able to, in that moment, be able to think. Have you heard of any stories coming back where they've said, you know, I was really in this, I had to go into this meeting and it was stressful, and so I calmed myself, and I thought of some things that I'm grateful for. I practiced my heart math to have that success.
Well, I actually have groups of patients now, you know, at work, they'll have people do a 2 to 5 minute meditation session before they start a meeting. Cleans the thoughts out, everyone's focused, and they say they get a ton more done. So instead of all these people on their phones, distracted, you know, not paying attention, scatterbrains, I think we all understand that thought. Now you've got this calm group who all together, like, will spend 2 minutes to get focused, calm, relaxed. They're like thinking, and they're in the mood, and they get more done than ever before. So I think that's getting more and more common in an executive world where, you know, high performance is really expected, that people are doing this, and it's making a big difference. So I would say, yes, it's getting more and more common as the research and the benefits of this get out.
That's cool. You know, we've talked with different doctors about different specific areas as well. And of course, with you, we're talking about brain health and mental clarity. And so I'm wondering, have you seen any, and I don't know because there may not be yet any specific studies on gratitude and brain health, but have you happened to see any yet?
Well, you know, HeartMath is doing research on this, and that's an essential. I think they've focused on being the emotion of being grateful is very helpful to get into that smooth heart rate variability zone that's associated with better brain performance. So they've actually done some comparative study, you know, so I think that's why gratefulness is an active part of the HeartMath teaching process, because it is so effective.
So, Dr. Masley, what are some gratitude practices you recommend
that you enjoy doing?
So, well, I'm grateful for every day. I mean, I have a few rituals in my day that each morning I get up and I want to feel energetic and, you know, some people I notice they're like dragging out of bed. I like to spring out of bed and look forward to my day. I'm grateful for that day and I look forward to it. And it shapes my attitude for the whole day with how I get out of bed in the morning. So number one, how do I get up? Am I dragging like, oh, I don't want to get out of bed? I think that's just a terrible attitude. And I hear it too often. Spring out of bed and look forward to your day. Well, that would be number one. When I'm in a stressful situation, you know, landing on an airplane or a big meeting that's worrying me or something, I usually try to take 10 seconds and just do some deep breathing, calming myself. I said 10 seconds, it's probably 20 seconds of just slow, deep breaths and thinking that I feel I'm loved in the world, I love my life, and I'm grateful. I try to do that before a meal. You know, it's like that prayer idea. I don't actually do a prayer, but I try to be thankful, you know, like, yay, God, thank you. Those are just for me, I try to have moments each day. I can remember back when I used to see 30 patients a day. Thank God I don't do that anymore. But when I did, I used to feel like I would rush into the room, apologize for being late, and then try to catch up really quickly. And, you know, it's like a rat race. I learned to put a blue dot on the door before I went in, to look at the blue dot, take 3 deep breaths, and be calm, and then walk into the room. It made a huge difference. So those are the little things I've done in my own personal life to try to add some calm, peace of mind, and gratitude to my life.
Well, I have to say, knowing your wife, Nicole, I'm sure she appreciates you jumping out of bed and saying, let's get going.
She thinks I'm crazy.
But I love that.
Sometimes, not all the time, sometimes.
You know, I wanted to ask you, because you and I had talked about this before. I don't know if you remember, but we had similar paths in that we both saw parents going through a really hard time towards the end of life, and how did you find this is a very significant aspect of it, and you know, what drew you to go into the Better Brain solution? If you can share a little bit of that and what you learned. That I know a lot of it's based around hope, but what was the significance of that life lesson or that experience that pulled you forward into this path of the Better Brain solution?
Well, you know, many of us have had tragedies in our families. I've certainly had it with mine, with my stepfather, Chuck, who he had a cardiac procedure and had a massive stroke from that. I mean, his life got changed in a day. Or my mother-in-law, Joy, you know, who had bypass surgery and lost memory from that, and then eventually developed Alzheimer's disease. And I've seen how awful things can be, the suffering, the confusion, and it's not just for them, it's for the entire family. So I have seen the dark side, the awful side of misery, decline, and it's terrible. Mm-hmm. And it's broken my heart to watch that happen to loved ones. But now from my research, from all my work, from all my study, I realize we can stop that. We can change that. And it's that positive attitude that we can make a difference. I mean, sometimes my patients will be scared. You know, they're literally scared. And I almost find myself laughing because I'm thinking, and I'll share with them, you know, you can totally change this. You're not stuck with that. The good news is that you can make a difference and transform your life. All you got to do is change how you think and the choices you make. And that's been really transforming for my whole work, my practice, my life. And so, yeah, going from despair to joy, well, that's what I think my job is. That's my work, and that's what I'm trying to share.
So we've been talking a lot about gratitude throughout this talk. And Dr. Masley, how would you summarize your personal definition of gratitude?
My definition. I think of being grateful as joyful, being happy, being satisfied. You know, so grateful is I am thankful for my wife, Nicole. I'm thankful for my family, for my kids. I'm thankful for my life, the things I get to do. I mean, I am such a lucky person. And I think all of us really are lucky. You know, some people have had terrible tragedy in their life and things have happened, but all of us have a life that's been given to us. I think it's precious, and I'm grateful for the life I've got. And I think the more grateful all of us can be, the better it's going to be for our health and our whole well-being.
And I love that too. And so I wanted to let the attendees know that if you want to find out more about Dr. Masley, you can do that by going to his website, drmasley, masley.com. And also be sure to look at the Better Brain Solution. That's just one of, how many have you written now? 15? How many books?
6 books. 6 books.
6? It feels like a lot more than that. There's so much information.
2 more in the making. I've got 2 in the future coming.
Well, that's right, because you just got back from your coastal exploration of Spain and going in and did you go truffle hunting, by the way?
I haven't been truffle hunting, not yet.
You were there. You had the opportunity. Well, we loved having you on the Global Gratitude Summit, and thank you so much for being here. But I want to thank you too for what you do, because as I said, it comes from your personal journey and it comes from your heart. And you really have a great way of relating to people, person to person, human to human, with that kind of connection. There's a lot of hope. You've said that several times, that you do translate through. And I think that's a big part of why you see your patients improve, because your hope is contagious for them. So thank you for what you do. Thank you for putting it out there to the hundreds of thousands of people, millions who are familiar with your work, and for coming on board the summit.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Masley. And I too, I think just hearing the hope that you have to give to your patients, I mean, it is in your practice, and then it's out in the world with people grabbing and realizing that there is hope. So thank you for sharing that message with them and all that you do.
And thank you
Love
for your summit and for the invitation today.